Morning, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting of the Housing, Finance, and Policy Division to order. Seeing that quorum is present, is there a motion to approve the minutes from Wednesday, April 3rd? Thank you, Representative Munson. The motion to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
A lot of practice here. So, and now we'll move straight to the first bill on the agenda, which is House File 3326, and I'll move it over to Chair Hausman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House File 3326 be approved and referred to the Committee on Capital Investment.
So moved. And
I have an author's amendment.
please proceed.
And so I will move the A1 amendment. I'm going to say a little more as introduction about Homes for All, but just to get the author's amendment before you. Homes for All drafted their agenda in two ways, two different funding sources. And one was the Stadium Reserve, which is in this bill. The Senate has introduced it without that, and I'm going to delete that funding source of the Stadium Reserve so that I match the Senate version of the Homes for All agenda. I would move the A1 amendment.
Any discussion to the A1? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amendment passes. Chair Hausman,
Mr. Chair, by now I think everyone in the room understands the hard work that the Homes for All Coalition has done to get us to this point, to bring us together in a bipartisan way to solve the incredibly challenging problem of housing and homelessness for those who don't have a safe place to sleep at night. Nothing else goes well if you don't have a safe place to sleep at night. So we're bringing the major portion of the Homes for All agenda to you today in House File 3326. We have some testifiers, and so that you understand, there are handouts in your folder, but Homes for All represents 240 endorsing organizations. Wherever I go to speak, whether I'm at the NAACP or Isaiah, on the wall is a statement that they support the Homes for All agenda. So this organization has done some amazing work in bringing those 240 endorsing organizations together. And they will present, and we have testimony.
Chair Hausman, members of the committee, my name is Allison Strike. I'm the Deputy Director of the Carver County Community Development Agency, and in my third year serving as co-chair for Homes for All, which is a statewide coalition. As many of you know, the Homes for All coalition has more than 250 endorsing organizations and representation in every county in Minnesota. The coalition continues to grow because the affordable housing crisis is being felt statewide and across the continuum. Whether you talk to people from Pennington, Olmsted, Sherburne, Ramsey, and my home county of Carver, local officials, business leaders, and service providers will tell you they have an unmet housing need across the continuum. Minnesota's affordable housing shortage means we need emergency shelters around the state. In the past 3 years, homelessness has grown by 10%. Statewide, 9% in the metro and 13% statewide, and the unsheltered homeless rate is up 62%. For at least a decade, Minnesota has not been able to keep up with the housing development to meet our growing population, and more than 1 in 4, or over 572,000 households, pay more than they can afford for rent. Many individuals and families are one emergency away from becoming homeless, and displacement is already happening due to significant loss of naturally occurring affordable housing. Additionally, Minnesota's racial disparities persist. 40% of households of color experience housing cost burden compared to 23% of white households. And Minnesota is in the bottom 5 in the nation for racial disparities in homeownership. Like many issues, working to solve Minnesota's affordable housing crisis is complex, but a safe, affordable, and accessible home is a necessary foundation if we want to have better educational outcomes for our children, healthcare that has meaningful long-term benefits, and places for our growing workforce to live. You might be wondering how we got here. A combination of factors, but we know that cuts to federal funding that support affordable housing since the mid-90s is an important factor. States and local governments are now having to find ways to more significantly budget for affordable housing needs. We can make progress towards meeting Minnesota's affordable housing needs with larger and more predictable investments to help our neighbors and communities thrive. Support for House File 3326 would put $500 million in bonds towards the development and preservation of affordable housing around the state. This request incorporates $100 million to support preservation and safety upgrades to publicly owned housing and $400 million in housing infrastructure bonds to support deeply affordable housing with a prioritization on 30% of area median income, both with and without supportive services. This bill also supports a one-time new use for shelter capital needs around the state. As the Deputy Director of the CDA, I'm responsible for helping to develop and preserve public housing within Carver County. Public housing is a critical piece of the housing continuum. With the vast majority of households headed by seniors and people with disabilities, public housing provides safe and affordable homes to low-income people who would otherwise lack adequate housing. The CDA utilized general obligation bonds to rehab Spruce Apartments, 31 units, complex consisting of 1, 2, 3, and 4-bedroom homes for a total of $243,000, which was used for site work, interior work, electrical, and mechanical upgrades. $100 million in general obligation bonds for public housing would go a long way to ensuring repairs like these are completed to preserving the 20,000 units of publicly owned housing in Minnesota. Before I turn it over to additional testifiers today on the Homes for All bonding request, I'd like to acknowledge the hard work that so many coalition members put into advancing this work around the state. We constantly are striving to be more inclusive, and we are especially thankful to those with lived experience helping to inform the work we do. Janelle Freeman Anderson and Rome Darien have given us their time and, more importantly, their perspective over the past 8 months. Homes for All looks forward to working with both chambers of the legislature and the governor's office to find a path forward to help meet Minnesota's affordable housing needs. Thank you for this opportunity to testify today, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Drake.
And we're going to ask Paul Williams to be next.
Good morning. Chair Hausman, Vice Chair Howard, Minority Leader Tice, and members of the committee, my name is Paul Williams, and I am the President and CEO of Project for Pride in Living. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today on the Homes for All bonding request, specifically to highlight the importance of housing infrastructure bonds and the impact it has on Minnesotans and communities around the state. Project for Pride in Living provides affordable housing and job training to nearly 13,000 people every year throughout the Twin Cities. PPL believes that the most effective way to promote long-term self-reliance is by stabilizing the economics of a household. Our dual focus on jobs and housing is the core of what we think makes a household thrive. Without a decent home, people can't live with the dignity that they deserve. Without job training to earn a livable wage, people don't have the opportunity to provide for themselves and their families. For close to 50 years, we have seen how central stable housing is to the ability of families to thrive. We see it literally every day. A family that has stable housing is able to begin tackling the multiple issues they may be facing. Healthcare starts to improve. Job searches get better results. Kids get to school. In short, housing is fundamental to a strong community. Today, PPL owns and manages nearly 1,600 units of quality, affordable apartments that are home to over 3,200 individuals and families literally every night. In 2018, PPL had the opportunity to participate in the Governor's Affordable Housing Task Force, a broad statewide assessment of the state's affordable housing needs. Among the many recommendations coming out of that assessment was a clear sense that we need to produce more affordable housing. In fact, as the chart here indicates, we need 61,500 additional units above and beyond what we currently produce to keep pace. And that's just for units serving the very lowest income folks. At PPL, we increasingly see this as a statewide economic competitiveness issue. The task force heard numerous examples of communities across Minnesota where the lack of affordable housing was an impediment to economic growth. Thief River Falls, Perham, Rochester, Austin, and certainly in the Twin Cities. Stable housing is an economic issue. It's a workforce issue. And housing infrastructure bonds are a critical tool to creating more of that housing. In 2018, PPL built 75 units of affordable housing in the Hawthorne neighborhood of North Minneapolis using housing infrastructure bonds. This project was a long-needed investment in North Minneapolis, providing options to residents that are normally scarce on the north side. New construction with critical amenities like underground parking, a fitness center where folks can work out and get healthy, and easy access to transit options. We are dispelling the myth that housing for people with lower incomes means lower quality. Many of these families are working families, folks who are earning maybe $30,000 a year. Using this critical resource, this family is paying roughly $850 a month at Eco Village in the Hawthorne neighborhood. A market rate two-bedroom apartment in this same neighborhood, likely in poor condition, can easily rent for $1,200 a month or more. Just after we opened Eco Village, I met Detrick, a welder and single parent who is raising his 9-year-old daughter. Detrick's experience speaks volumes about how critical stable housing is to his job success and his daughter's academic success. He told me how their new home felt like divine intervention and helped them go from hopeless to hopeful after his family experienced homelessness. HIB funding of this critical project meant that 130 individuals and families in North Minneapolis had the foundation of stable housing to build upon, to move from surviving to thriving. This summer, we are breaking ground on 2 new developments using housing infrastructure bonds. Last session's investment in HIBs makes it possible for us to move quickly to provide housing for 82 individuals and families in our community. Both projects are partnerships that will provide population-specific, permanent supportive housing. One of those projects, Anishinaabe 3, is our 4th partnership in the Native American community and will provide 40 units of permanent housing with supportive services to Native Americans in Minneapolis' urban Indian community. A second project, Bloom Lake Flats, will offer 42 units of permanent supportive housing to individuals and families living with HIV, our second housing partnership with Clare Housing. All of these projects and the 157 units of affordable housing they represent would not have been possible without housing infrastructure bonds. These investments allow us to move more quickly on critically needed affordable units. Without these funds, several of these projects might sit waiting for 2 to 3 years for funding in the queue with the state. Currently, for every 1 project that does receive funding from Minnesota Housing, 3 projects are not able to move forward. Looking ahead in PPL's own pipeline, if necessary funding resources were available, PPL alone would be able to move forward on 4 shovel-ready projects, totaling 260 units of affordable housing across the city. That would probably touch the lives of at least 500 to 600 people with PPL alone, and there are many other organizations that are in that queue as well. Additionally, the expansion of the new eligible use would allow PPL to provide housing to people at or below 50% of AMI, median income, where there is tremendous demand. While units at 30% are certainly the most needed, units at 50% have become increasingly difficult to produce as well in the current funding landscape. Providing units in that 30 to 50% AMI range is an important component of creating balanced projects, actually, that meet community needs. So we see the impacts of affordable housing crisis every day and understand how quickly we need to work to increase the availability of affordable supportive housing for folks with lower incomes and people experiencing homelessness. I'm here to tell you that housing infrastructure bonds make that possible. It's a critical resource. Thank you for your time. Look forward to any questions.
And I believe April Chenard is going to be the next one, a nursing degree candidate.
Good morning, Chair Hausman and committee members. My name is April Chenard. I am the proud mother of 3 beautiful little girls, and I am in recovery from abuse, addiction, and homelessness. I'm here today safe and sober because of the Solace program. Only 4.5 years ago, I was a stay-at-home mother and a respite care provider for Scott County Human Services. I lived a fairly normal life. Following a very difficult separation, within 3 years, my mental health and codependency issues, alongside severe alcoholism and onset drug addiction, caused me to lose my children, my home, and my family. I remember trying to get back up on my feet by contacting the only women's homeless shelter I knew of. I hung up with their staff with a very heavy heart. There was no vacancy. My fate was sealed. I was living in a minivan, shooting at meth in constant desperation to not allow myself to feel anything. This is my life now. Several painful months later, I nearly lost my life and was shortly thereafter arrested and was admitted into intensive inpatient treatment. For 5 months, I worked very hard to improve my mental and emotional health, to free myself of an extremely toxic relationship, and to break the chains that addiction had on my whole life. 2 weeks before graduating inpatient treatment, I cried myself to sleep, completely overwhelmed by the realization that I had nowhere to go. With all the progress I had made, I was feeling more hopeless than ever before. I was facing homelessness again, and I knew there was very little hope of me getting my babies back, even less so of me remaining sober or safe. The very next morning, I received a phone call from Tyler at Solace Apartments. My name was referred to him. There was a brand new 3-bedroom available. Signing that lease was the most profound moment of my entire life, right next to the day we moved in and my daughters picked out their own bedrooms. There simply aren't words to genuinely express how grateful I truly am. I've made an incredible amount of progress. I'm starting classes April 7th to finish my degree. I will do great things, and I am raising three fierce little women who have an independent, strong, driven, sober, and healthy mother to look up to because we have a safe, stable home of our own. Honestly, though, I fell in love with too many women whom attended those treatment programs and put in that work right alongside me, but today aren't as fortunate because of the lack of shelters and programs like Solace. Thank you. I urge you to support House File 3326 because we need more affordable housing and emergency shelters for when housing isn't available.
And Mr. Chair,
Members, please hold your applause, but I do want to thank you, Ms. Chanel, for sharing your powerful testimony and for really putting this into focus for us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
and Mr. Chair, I think that story demonstrates that line that I use almost all the time. Nothing else in life goes well if you don't have a safe place to sleep at night. And when that happens, lives can be transformed. Sheila Cascaden, Olmsted County Commissioner, I think may testify on two bills. She's going to speak on this one. She may also return for the tax credit one.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Sheila Cascaden, Olmsted County Commissioner, but also today representing the Association of Minnesota Counties, not officially, but I'm working with the county association, is very concerned about housing as well. I want to just tell you a little bit about Rochester. You're going to hear about our homeless issues because our mayor is here and will be testifying shortly. But when you think of Rochester, Olmsted County, you think of a growing community with a lot of dynamic economy, and that is true. But you probably don't think about the fact that half of our workforce works in the hospitality industry to support the destination medical center that we're becoming. And that workforce does not earn that much money. And so as we look to what's happening in our community around housing, what we find, I see Representative Sauke, who knows our real estate market very well. We are building a lot of market rate apartments and a lot of in our community. I think we built about 5,000 in the last 5 years. We did the Maxfield study a few years ago. We are at 58% of the target that we had for that. But if you start to look at what's happening with housing for people who earn 80% or below of the median income, and particularly those earning 50% or below, almost nothing is happening because it's too hard to put the financing together because the developers are worried that they will build properties that won't meet market need or market demand. And so they have a lot of incentive to build to the higher end of the market. But another interesting thing that's happening in Olmsted County is in the last year, we only had 200 single-family home permits. If you look back 6 years ago, we had 900, and that was before the big growth spurt that started with our destination medical center effort. So as our county looks at how do we work with the folks who are at needing housing stability because their life circumstance is such that they need a stable home, we can find some projects at the 30% or below thanks to the bonding that you've passed in the past. We've taken advantage of that. But when you're trying to look at those families that are up to 60 or 70%, particularly below 50% of the median family income, there's almost nothing happening in our community. It's very hard to put that together. And I think our story is like that of many counties around the state. And then we look at the population that's getting older. And we haven't been doing very much at all. And we built several different kinds of housing complexes for the baby boomer generation and older, but also, again, at the upper income levels. And so if you're in a home, 3-bedroom rambler built in the 1950s, you probably aren't going to be able to afford to move into that kind of housing, but what is available for you in our community so that you can move out of that family home into something that's easier for you to manage without a big mortgage. The proposals that you have before you today for infrastructure bonds, capital bonds for housing, particularly because you're focusing on including families up to 50%, ideally I'd like to see you go a little higher, but that would really make a difference for a lot of communities. I work in southeastern Minnesota with a regional group, and we've had 2 or 3 housing forums in the last year, and this housing problem is endemic across our entire state and across our entire region. There's a huge gap in what people are able to afford for housing and what developers are able to develop. So your infrastructure bonding will be very important. And Madam Chair, Representative Hausman and Mr. Chair, if it's okay with you, I would just say the next bill you're going to hear about the tax credit bill is also really important because government isn't going to solve this problem alone. We really need to work to develop a continuum of service, as you're going to hear from our mayor, starting with shelter, up through single-family homes. We need to preserve the homes that we already have. But we also know that government can't do it alone. So how do we get those employers engaged in making sure that there's housing available for their workforce? And across the state, you will hear the Association of Counties has a work group that's on economic development, workforce, and housing, because housing is core to dealing with our workforce shortage and with providing families with a stability and with the kind of structure they need to be able to raise their children well and stay healthy. So I just really support this proposal, and I hope that you will support Representative Hausman's bill and Representative Tabke's bill on tax credits. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And Mr. Chair, thank you to so many people in the room who've brought so much energy. And now we send this bill off to capital investment, and we all have to hope that the work of the session results in a bonding bill that is going to fund both housing infrastructure bonds and general obligation bonds. I'd like to conclude by focusing specifically on that $100 million for public housing with some statistics that NARO has given. They're going to be speaking at a subsequent meeting. But that sounds like a big amount, $100 million for public housing. But just to put it in context, since 2012, we've provided $35 million of general obligation bonds. In 7 years, that's $5 million a year for all public housing in the state. Here's the need as quantified by NARO. Projected public housing critical needs in Minnesota, $355 million. That's quantifying across the state, and we do $5 million a year. And that's why we're bold to say this year, let's ask for $100 million for public housing. We fall behind each year, and that infrastructure just requires more and more effort. So it's an aggressive agenda. I'm grateful to people in the room, to Homes for All, for having gotten us to this point, and now we're sending it off to capital investment. And so I would renew my motion that House File 3326 be referred to the Committee on Capital Investment.
Before that, could we just see if there are any questions from members? Are there any questions? Representative Sauke?
I'd just like to make one comment, and I think that there's a nuance that's the undercurrent to our challenge that we have, And part of it is our own history of how we have been allocating funds and our projects to this need. This is not a new thing. I've been in real estate since 1988 as an official broker level, watching the market replace itself over time. These numbers that we're looking at are actually inadequate. So as astounding as it may have sounded as she went through the litany, these numbers are very, very small and inadequate in terms of meeting this need. Across the state right now, we are wringing our hands over whether we should go past $1 billion of bonding. It is on your backs, you the public, to change that attitude. You have to have a legislature that is willing to step up and change that number. It's an artificial number. It's just arbitrary in terms of size. And I sit on capital investment. That's why this is sort of a fire that's building underneath me. I'm also in part of, you'll hear later, I've got a type of project I'd like to promote also in housing. But the fact is we do have the ability to have enough money, or at least substantially more than we're talking about right now. The fact is we are very capable of moving past $2 billion. We just have to have a strong public push to give us the strength to make those decisions. The public has sent us up here because they looked us in the eye when we knocked on their door and said, yeah, I think you've got the strength to make decisions on behalf of the state. Yet year after year after year, we seem to crumble in the pressure of, oh, we really can't go past that $1 billion. Yes, we can. We need to have a public that is going to give us the strength to change the size of this budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to concur with Representative Sauke's comments and thank all of the advocates, not only in this bill, but the bills we're about to hear. It is through this large statewide coalition and grassroots organizing that we can get this done. And, you know, a couple of years ago, or several years ago, the request was $100 million. And I agree, Representative Sauke, it's too modest. But everybody, it seemed, on both sides of the aisle had that $100 million etched in their brain for affordable housing. Now we have to have $500 million etched in our brain. Nothing less will do, and it's an important start. We live in the wealthiest society in the history of humankind. There's no reason why we cannot make these investments in affordable housing. So I thank you, Madam Chair. I thank the Homes for All Coalition for their excellent work in grassroots organizing.
And I have one brief question. I'm wondering if someone could comment on the statistic that over 500,000 Minnesotans are cost burdened. I think that should center us in that we have 500,000 people who are struggling to either afford groceries or their rent. I'm wondering if someone would comment on the impact on the loss of naturally occurring affordable housing to that number as well.
Chair Howard, my name is Carrie Johnson. I'm a policy co-chair for the Homes for All Coalition. And so I don't have specific numbers on that. Perhaps Minnesota Housing could answer that specifically, but I will say overall the fact that those statistics aren't necessarily readily available because we don't know how many units we are losing that don't actually currently have subsidy is concerning. So when we are losing naturally occurring affordable housing, that only adds more pressures onto the affordable housing market because we aren't able to produce those units. As the chart that I put up here shows the units that we need the most of, and as Paul Williams mentioned, we need on that bottom level, 50% AMI and under. And that's because the naturally occurring affordable housing units are able to serve parts of that market without that subsidy, but then if we lose those units, we no longer can make sure that those people have places to live at that income level. So loss of naturally occurring affordable housing is not just loss of housing, but it's also displacement of people, and it disrupts communities. I know in your community, it's it not only had an impact on the housing, but impacted the schools and the community as a whole.
And Mr. Chair, it looked as though Ann Mavity might be willing to come forward if you'd want a little more
That was thank you for that answer. And I just asked it because, again, to highlight the need, we're here talking about a $500 million request, that doesn't quite meet the need. And even in that $500 million, we're not addressing the naturally occurring affordable housing issue, which is a huge need and interrelated as well. And just one comment I'd like to make about the number, and there's a lot of discussion. This session, we shouldn't be satisfied unless we make a historic investment in housing. And each session we've kind of set the new bar, but I'd like us to kind of think about this in the same way, just to make an analogy. This last season, the Minnesota Twins set a record. They hit the most home runs they've ever hit before, and they didn't just barely set it, they blew it away. They set the major league record. And I'd submit that this year we should set our own home run record, and maybe this committee can be our version of the Bomba Squad. And we ought to not just set the mark, but go bold, go beyond, and as Representative Hornstein said, that's going to take $500 million and more, and a continued sustained investment in housing until everyone in our state has access to an affordable, safe place to live.
And Mr. Chair, I think one of the reasons we can be hopeful about that, if you look at the authors of this bill, housing really has become a bipartisan issue, as illustrated on our floor votes last year and authors of these bills. So I think that gives us reason to hope.
Representative Bierman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for bringing the bill forward. I agree with all the representatives who have spoken out positively about this. This is a huge issue. I was meeting with social services in my own county in the last couple weeks, and the wait lists just kept getting longer and longer and longer. And we all acknowledge the fact of housing stability being critical to our schools and to our economic security and how it affects healthcare. So this interrelated connection starts with housing. And so I agree with everybody who is saying this is the time to do a bold plan, and the concern about $1 billion, $2 billion, this problem is just going to continue to worsen if we throw $5 million at it. And so that's completely inadequate. And I appreciated Commissioner Cascaden's comments also that this isn't a public solution entirely. We need to bring the private market in. So I'm anxious to hear Representative Tabke's proposal. This is public-private together, and the benefit will be for the entire public and private industry and the state of Minnesota. So thanks for the bill, and let's be bold here today. Thanks.
Chair Hausman, any final words?
I think that concludes, and I would renew my motion that House File 3326 as amended be referred to the Committee on Capital Investment.
All in favor, say aye.
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 No? Motion carries.
Thank you. Representative Tabke, welcome to the committee. The chair will move House File 3253 be referred to the Committee on Taxes, and we're anxious to hear your testimony.
Thank you very much, Chair Hausman. Thank you very much, committee members, for having us here today for this hearing, as it's really exciting to see so many people here to support affordable housing in the state of Minnesota. It is a critical issue. Today we have a bill, the housing tax credit, affordable housing tax credit, that will work in innovative, creative, new ways to help leverage private capital in order to help build more units of affordable housing in the state of Minnesota, as well as to preserve naturally occurring affordable housing. And so it's a flexible, simple bill that what we can do together with this bill is it's a tax credit for affordable housing. And as people can invest in local projects that are in their community, so you can put someone, for example, in Shakopee, Beacon is working on a homeless apartment complex in Shakopee. We've never had anything like that in our community before. And so it's a really exciting, critical, necessary project for our area. And with that, we haven't had a ton of folks who are really investing in housing in our community. And what this bill will do is allow someone, a local community member, churches, businesses, folks like that, faith organizations, to really pool their money and to put money into a specific project in their community or put money into a pool at Minnesota Housing. And with that, they will get a tax credit on the back end for that. So someone in Shakopee who really believes that we need to have homeless apartments for families in our community will be able to put $1,000 into a local project, and they'll get a 90% tax credit back on that project. And we had this bill heard in housing last year, and not in housing, sorry, in taxes last year. My apologies. So we had this bill heard in taxes last year. And I had a very rookie mistake that it went to taxes first. It should have come to housing, and we didn't have enough time to pull it back out of taxes. And so I'm really happy to be here to talk with you more about this bill and what it can do to leverage private market forces to be able to understand exactly where the needs are across the state of Minnesota. This is a bill that is, like I said earlier, is innovative, and it will work in greater Minnesota as well as it will work in the metro and in the suburbs, and it will do a lot to help build and leverage private capital for building affordable housing throughout our state. And so we have a variety of testifiers here, Chair, in order to speak about the bill as well.
And our first testifier is Chris Coleman, President and CEO of Twin Cities Habitat for Humanity. I, however, still always refer to him as Mayor Coleman. So, welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself. For the
Madam Chair, thank you so much, members of the committee. I'm Chris Coleman. I am the President and CEO of Twin Cities Habitat for Humanity, and George Latimer will always be the mayor in my mind. So that's a disappointment to the current mayor, but I'm sure he'll get over that. I do represent Twin Cities Habitat for Humanity. We are a part of the coalition of advocacy groups across the state of Minnesota seeking more resources for housing on the entire continuum of housing, from sheltering homeless that are currently suffering on the streets all the way to home ownership. We represent the home ownership side of the equation. We're one of 28 affiliates across the state of Minnesota for Habitat for Humanity, but the Twin Cities Habitat is one of the largest affiliates across the country. We produce about 50 homes a year from the ground up, but we have been able to dramatically increase our reach over the last several years, allowing people to buy through Habitat for Humanity in the open market. As a result of that, this year we will serve over 125 families that will actually own their home as a result of their partnership with Habitat for Humanity. In addition to that, we're involved in the preservation of naturally occurring affordable housing through our Brush with Kindness program and our Age Well in Place program, helping seniors stay in their home, which is often the most affordable option for them. We're proud of the work that we do, but we know that the need is so great that our work needs to expand dramatically. And we need every tool that we can have in our toolbox in order to be able to have working families finally achieve the American dream of owning their home. Because we know what happens when a family owns their home. Through Wilder research in 2015, we know that children do exponentially better in school when they have a stable, safe home that their parents own. Their health increases significantly. This is one of the things that we don't necessarily think about. We have home celebrations when a family is finally able to enter their home. I was with one young man about 10 years old, and we always ask, "What did you like most about your new house?" And he had been living in there for a couple of weeks, and he said, we usually say, well, I have my own bedroom, or there's a playground in the backyard, or there's a basement. This young man said, the thing I like the best about my house is there's no carpet. And I said,
Well, that's a really strange thing for a 10-year-old to say. Why is it that you like the fact that there's no carpet in your home? And he said, I have asthma. And every place I have lived, I have not been able to breathe because they've had carpet, and it has affected my health. And the mom indicated it had affected how he was doing in school. So when we think about home ownership, we don't even know all the benefits that accrue as a result of that. We also know that parents frequently will go back to school, increase their education, and increase their earning potential. And importantly, the dependency on public benefits drops dramatically when families are owning their own home. Home ownership is one of the only ways that families in America are able to build generational wealth. I know that in my own family history, the fact that my parents were able to buy a house on the GI Bill after my dad came back from World War II was the foundation for all of my brothers and sisters being able to buy their home going forward. But the fact of the matter is we need tools in the toolbox, and that's why I stand strongly in support of House File 1156, the Minnesota Tax Credit Contribution Fund. It's a simple, straightforward, easy-to-use, proven strategy that will allow communities across the state of Minnesota to address their critical housing shortages and their housing needs. It is a win-win. It is a partnership between the business community and local communities and housing developers, and it is just one of the pieces of the puzzle that will help us address that. We, as was mentioned earlier by various members of the committee, more resources and bold and dramatic action is needed, but this is one of the tools that really helps everyone be involved in the game of making affordable home ownership across the state of Minnesota not just a dream, but a reality. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I don't see any questions, and we have Warren Hansen up next. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris. Members, my name is Warren Hansen. I'm the President and CEO of Greater Minnesota Housing Fund. And I would just start out by saying the name is a bit of a misnomer. We work in all 87 counties, including the 7-county metro area. We also operate, because it's come up so many times this morning, the NOAA Impact Fund, which has preserved over 700 units of affordable housing in the last 2 years. But Greater Minnesota Housing Fund itself, as the parent organization, has financed over 15,000 units of affordable housing in partnership with Minnesota Housing, nonprofit and for-profit developers, and local communities. And we each year provide a combination of about $60 million in debt financing, low-cost debt, low-cost equity, and grants for affordable housing. And I want to emphasize that we work in partnership with state and local government to align our charitable and private investments with the state's highest affordable housing priorities. So we are a partner with the state and with you in your efforts. As has been well documented, the state of Minnesota needs to build 300,000 new housing units of all types by 2030 or over the next 10 years. To date, we've typically produced about 20,000 units of housing, and we need to increase that by 10,000 units per year. And this is compounded by the fact that addressing the full housing demand also requires a near-term ramp-up, given that we are also 50,000 units behind the current needs statewide. And that data is coming from this Governor's Housing Task Force report. And as we know, the market works extremely well for upper income households. However, housing costs have risen so fast in recent years, and with wages staying flat, that the market alone will not solve the housing shortage, especially for lower income households who cannot afford the cost of a new home today, which exceeds over $300,000. Clearly not affordable to a low income family. In studying the potential benefit of a state housing tax credit, Greater Minnesota Housing Fund modeled the state housing tax credit proposal, the bill, and we conservatively predict that the credit would stimulate the creation of at least 700 new units or deepen the affordability of 1,000 units of affordable housing for every $50 million in state tax credits awarded. And these assumptions are extremely conservative. On average, in Connecticut and in North Dakota, where tax credits, these exact same types of tax credits, state tax credits have been awarded. Each tax credit unit received just $13,000 in subsidy. Our model assumes multifamily per unit subsidy closer to $50,000 per unit, given the subsidy needed to serve low-income households in Minnesota. Briefly, I would state the case for more resources as follows. As construction costs rise, higher production of affordable housing is unattainable without additional public investment to provide the needed gap subsidy. In other words, in the midst of this severe housing shortage affecting our workforce and a rising number of homeless families, we need greater state investment to leverage local and private funds, or we will not have greater production of housing. Additionally, we need to expand our public-private partnerships. In the 2018 Governor's Housing Task Force, it recommended creating a bolder, broader, and stronger public commitment to address the urgent need for more homes of all types. And it called on all Minnesotans to recognize homes as the central and critical element of our state's economic competitiveness. And as has been well established, affordable housing is essential to the social well-being of our residents, and especially the education and early childhood development of our children, which is our future workforce. The state contribution tax credit essentially serves as an invitation to more employers, more businesses, and essentially all Minnesotans to contribute directly to the solution of solving our housing shortage via a state charitable contribution tax credit. No other proposal has such a diverse range of endorsers, which now has grown to include local chambers of commerce, municipalities, counties, community nonprofits, Minnesota employers, not to mention scores of individuals who would like to contribute. Greater Minnesota has a unique and serious housing challenge. The state housing tax credit would help attract additional private charitable resources needed to help small and medium-sized communities in Greater Minnesota do two important things. One, provide what is most often a modest amount of additional gap financing, and number two, help leverage the federal low-income housing tax credit. It's well known that existing gap financing resources are vastly oversubscribed each year at the state RFP. And this housing tax credit will help provide more needed gap financing. And as mentioned earlier in testimony, the greatest need is for households with incomes below 60% AMI and even deeper to 50 and 30% AMI. And we definitely need more resources dedicated to the production of single-family homes. And this resource, as Chris Coleman mentioned, would help produce both more rental housing and more single-family homes. I want to mention one last thing, and that is that this tool would provide the additional predictability that we need, or help with additional predictability of funding. There are shovel-ready projects each year that are delayed by 1 or 2 years when they cannot secure that last amount of needed gap financing. For example, a multifamily project providing 60 to 70 units of newer preserved affordable housing can be at a loss for that last 5% of the funds needed to move that project forward. And this tool would help provide those last gap funds. When there are delays, we have higher costs. Every funder has to put in more money. When the project is delayed, construction costs rise during that delay, and the increased gap funds would help eliminate that problem. So in conclusion, in this time of a severe housing shortage, Greater Minnesota and the whole state needs all the creative tools available, and this is one of the most creative and most needed tools being proposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no questions. We have one additional testifier, Jonathan Weinhagen. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, Chair Hausman, members of the committee. My name is Jonathan Weinegan. I am President and CEO of the Minneapolis Regional Chamber of Commerce. We represent nearly 1,500 member companies employing hundreds of thousands of workers across the Minneapolis-St. Paul region, ranging from Fortune 500 companies that we all know and love to mom and pop shops that are all across our communities enriching our lives. It is a tough time to be looking for a place to call home in the state of Minnesota. Ensuring that we have available and affordable housing for a variety of household types is critical to attracting, developing, and retaining a diverse and productive workforce. It's why the Minneapolis Regional Chamber has made this one of our key priorities. We hear this from other local chambers and communities all across the state as well. Here's what we know, and we've heard it over the course of the last hour this morning. Our region's housing affordability is threatened. We're not producing enough units to meet the demand of a growing region and population, and if we fail to create more housing, our housing shortage will negatively impact families, businesses, and our communities. Businesses are growingly concerned about the lack of affordable housing options across the state and understand that state and local governments, as well as private entities, all have a role to play in addressing the affordable housing needs in our communities. To address this issue, lawmakers should support programs that stimulate public-private partnerships and leverage resources from both public and private entities. The establishment of the state affordable housing tax credit is an important step to further incentivize private investment to spur the development of affordable housing and promote economic development. A public-private partnership is one of the very best ways to ensure an adequate supply of housing. House File 3253 attracts the partnerships of local businesses, community banks, and individuals, organizations and people that today don't have an easy vehicle to support this critical need, the need of housing development in their communities. The bill creates the necessary infrastructure to facilitate relationships between the public and private sectors with the potential to leverage significant private investment. In North Dakota, a similar program is leveraging $5 for every dollar invested by the state. In my opinion, that's a pretty good deal. Our region's affordability and livability have long been a source of pride and a competitive advantage for our region and our state. But this is quickly changing, quickly eroding. The Twin Cities is on a trajectory to become as expensive as places like Seattle and Denver. Meanwhile, other regions with lower median wages are beginning to compete with us because of their relative affordability and those advantages. In the Twin Cities, low and moderate workers are often priced out of their communities. We're talking about skilled workers. We're talking about teachers. And we know that local economies suffer when more than 1 in 4 Minnesotans are spending more than 30% of their income on housing. When a household spends this much on housing, that household is not spending money on goods and services, not bolstering their economy, and very selfishly, not investing and spending money in my member companies. It is imperative that Minnesota makes serious investments to increase the supply of affordability. Not tomorrow, not somewhere down the road, but right now. A 2015 report by the Campaign for Housing and Community Development Funding and the National Low Income Housing Coalition, say that 3 times fast, found that the shortage of affordable housing in major metropolitan areas in the United States negatively impacts the economy, costing about $2 trillion in lower wages and productivity. There is a clear economic return to this type of investment. Over the biennium, we can estimate and project that this House file and program will create more than 700 new units of affordable and workforce housing or deepen affordability for 2,000 units. Additionally, it will generate 1,400 new jobs per biennium. These jobs and the families who benefit from paying less of their income towards housing lead to increased spending in the local economy, rejuvenating downtowns, and ensuring that local businesses thrive. A state affordable housing tax credit is about strengthening the competitiveness and health of our communities. I'll leave you with this. Housing in the Twin Cities and across the state is less affordable than a lot of us realize. If we don't take action soon, we can predict our housing future. And we can predict that because we're seeing it in communities all across the country. Let me tell you, it's not a pretty picture. Or we can choose our housing future. And I'll tell you, House File 3253 is a choice that I will bet on. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for your testimony. Representative Howard, yours is not to the testifier, but to the bill. Members, all 4 of our bills today, we send off to some other committee where some other committee is going to make the decision, but we are hearing really powerful arguments today. Representative Howard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to thank Representative Tabke for bringing such an innovative proposal forward. And I think that's what we're going to have to do to address our affordable housing crisis, is be willing to think outside of the box and to do things new. And I really see this as a proposal to do that, and frankly, a linchpin for how we address our affordable housing crisis this session. My one comment is, this bill utilizes our tax code to leverage private investment in housing. And I just wanted to call out that our tax code currently does that through the mortgage interest deduction. We use our tax code to subsidize housing, and nationally, that figure is $100 billion. We use the mortgage interest deduction. And so with that in mind, using this tool to leverage public and private investment in housing that people can afford in our communities is a common sense, cost-effective, and innovative solution. So thanks for bringing it forward.
Representative Hurd.
Thank you, Chair Hausman. Representative Tabke, just had two questions. I know we're running short of time, so I'm just going to go really quickly here. The first one is I just want to understand, as I'm reading through sections 6.13 to 6.15, it's because it's within some of these sections and subdivisions. I can't tell readily, but I just want to understand that around the conditions for how long a unit must be kept affordable. Is there different considerations for this pot of funds as currently what's set aside for how tax credits work right now?
Representative Tabke or staff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. One thing I want to state is that the tax credits can be used for a variety of different projects. I'm also going to ask Libby Murphy to come down and help me answer that.
I think someone's coming
question.
forward to help you.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank
But
you.
to Representative Hurd's point, I just want to make sure that everyone understands that this bill can be used for a variety and is targeted at a variety of different area median incomes for housing. And so we have it that annually the bill has to, that the money used, 35% has to go at housing at 50% AMI or less and 15% at 30 AMI or less. And that is the goal of the bill, is to get a variety of housing that is affordable. And I will let Libby answer the 613.
Ms. Murphy, please, welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself.
My name is Libby Murphy. I'm the Deputy Policy Director of Minnesota Housing Partnership and also a policy co-chair with the Homes for All Coalition. So I think to your question about the affordability commitments, so because this is intended to provide gap financing tools and it goes through Minnesota Housing, and they're likely most of the resources will go through their super RFP process, or how they award all of their resources. It will be paired with other tools. And given the fact that we are intending this new tool to be flexible, those federal low-income housing tax credits, for example, they have affordability commitments that Minnesota Housing requires. In addition, projects that commit to longer-term affordability get score higher. And so we envision that because this will be paired with some of those other tools, that we wanted to maintain the flexibility so that the agency could use it with a variety of different tools, but also give them the ability to figure out how they want to incentivize longer-term affordability when they pair it with those other tools.
Representative Hurd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Representative Tabke, and maybe somebody else might be able to help with this as well, but I just want to understand why just 15% of the grants, because of the $25 million, right, that's only $3.7 million, and how many units does $3.7 million actually build for 15% of grants and loans for 30% AMI? So I'm just curious as the number of units, because the deeply affordable housing is the least amount we have in the market, and so I just want to understand why that amount is so is only at 15%.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. We have that at 15%, and that is up for discussion for sure as to where those numbers should be, and I'd love input from the committee as to where those should be. But housing at 30% AMI is obviously the most expensive, the most difficult to build, and so we wanted to make sure that there was availability of money in order to build that type of housing, and so that's why we put these numbers in there at what we can get out. We don't have any units specifically in here whatsoever. We want to build more units and we want to save more units. That is the goal. And those and the simplicity and the ease of use of this bill is what we are really working on. So the unit saved or built in St. Louis Park or Austin is very different than Thief River Falls or in Grand Marais. And so it is very, very different. So we want to make sure that we are infusing capital into those projects and leveraging as much private capital as we possibly can. Like this is, as one of the testifiers mentioned, this is patterned off of a program that's been wildly successful in North Dakota and multiple other states across the United States. And they're getting between 5 and 7 to 1 leveraging of private capital for each dollar invested by the public sector.
And Madam Chair, just one last comment. And I just wanted to reiterate what Mayor Coleman had said around families that have housing, that the adults within the home often return to for their education. And I just want to reiterate that housing to me is a very important issue because Chair Hausman has heard me say this before about the impact that's made on my family, and that my father did return to get his associate's degree when I was very young. And that was because we had housing and he had the ability to do that. And he left a legacy that allowed his children to be able to have a stable housing, to be able to complete our education. And so this issue is very important to me, and I really appreciate you bringing this forward, Representative Tabke.
Representative Tice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And first, just a comment. I'm always about finding out why building is so expensive. And I think that's one of the things we need to look at, too, and the program will work even better. A lot of times I hear from builders the reason they're building only higher level homes is because by the time they get the permits and the land cost in, it doesn't make sense to put in well, you can't even put in a first-time home builder or a first-time builder home. I'm also glad to see the bill here. In 2018, Representative Sarah Anderson carried this. And I'm just wondering if you had a chance to chat with her to see what the concerns were at that time, and if you've had an opportunity to kind of address what was going on at that time.
Representative Tabke, any past history?
Chair Hausman, no, I have not, Representative Tice, I have not talked with Representative Anderson about this bill specifically. We did spend, so currently 1156 is the previous bill that we had in the 2019 session that's currently sitting in taxes. And we spent the summer working with Department of Revenue and Department of Housing and working on some of the issues that they felt the bill had at that point. And so we've been working with a variety of folks on that, but I have not spoken with Representative Anderson, but I definitely will. Thank you.
Representative Jurgens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Murphy, I just want to get your opinion on who the target beneficiaries are of this bill. Is it people that are currently unsheltered, that it would open up housing possibilities for them? Or is it people that are in apartments now? For example, my daughter and son-in-law are going to be shopping for a home soon, and the housing stock in the area that they want to live, I know is going to be a challenge for them. So who do you view as the main beneficiary of this if this were to go through?
Ms. Murphy.
Representative Jurgens, committee members. So we really intended for the bill to provide maximum flexibility. So my organization provides direct technical assistance to communities across the state and actually nationally, and we specialize in working with rural and tribal communities. So we know the unique challenges in greater Minnesota. We also know that the unique challenges of targeting resources to maximize and achieve those deeper levels of affordability and longer term affordability. So we look to the flexibility of the Challenge Fund program, which is something that this committee heard about last year and made investments in. It's something that Representative Gunther has championed for over a number of years. And so we really wanted it to operate very similarly to that. As a previous testifier, Warren Hansen mentioned, gap financing tools are currently extremely oversubscribed. And we know that but for $500,000, many projects do not get financed in the first year that they apply for housing resources through Minnesota Housing or through other philanthropic entities. And so it is intended to have a broad array of housing that it can finance, naturally occurring affordable housing to new production and other forms of preservation, and on the single family and the multifamily. So I would that is why we also have the targeting 50% of the funds, so that reaching those challenge fund income limits to have that maximum flexibility in a variety of communities where the needs may differ, especially in greater Minnesota, while also targeting 50% of the funds to those deeper affordabilities where we do recognize and we believe firmly as an organization that it's imperative that state resources are targeted to those where the market is not working, where it's working the most poorly. And so I hope that answers your question. It's really intended to provide maximum flexibility and give Minnesota Housing, as it allocates its resources, flexibility to, as market changes, as the needs change, to target the resource to those needs and to those priorities.
Madam Chair.
I see no further questions. You have concluding comments, Representative Tabke.
I would like to add on real quickly, Madam Chair, to what Libby's answer, Ms. Murphy's answer was there. And part of the reason why why I really like this bill is because the fact that it allows market forces to tell people where these housing. So it's not necessarily targeting at a specific demographic or a specific type of homeowner, single-family home, rental, anything like that. It's letting market forces say where. So if you have local projects that there's a nexus and a group of folks who are really looking to invest in a project to really help their local community, whether that's a business who needs to have workers, whether that's a homeless shelter in Shakopee, if whatever that is, this bill has the flexibility to allow those kinds of things to happen. And so it has maximum flexibility to let market forces say where projects should be going because people are able to invest directly into a local type project.
I will renew my motion that House File 3253 be referred to the Committee on Taxes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion prevails. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Representative Hassan. Representative Hassan, would you, do you want to move your bill?
Good morning, Chair Hausman and members of the committee. I move House File 3358 to capital investment.
Representative Hassan, proceed with your testimony.
Thank you for taking up House File 3358, the Shelter Housing Fund proposal. The purpose of this legislation is to help address the large gap around the state in emergency housing for those who are homeless. As you may recall, the past couple years, the lack of temporary shelter has hit homeless Minnesotans hard in high-profile way. In 2018, more than 200 people created a small tent in Minneapolis and called it the Wall of Forgotten Natives to draw attention to this serious problem, and that was in my district. Last November, a public housing apartment in fire in Minneapolis, Cedar Riverside neighborhood, killed 5 people and left many families homeless in need of emergency shelter. Last but not least, the Drake Hotel. This temporary shelter was seriously damaged by fire early morning of this past Christmas, putting 250 people and dozens of families out in the cold in winter street. And sadly, Madam Chair, this is the tip of the iceberg. The need is much greater, and so is the cost. That's why I present to you today House File 3358. This proposal creates a $50 million competitive pool of funding, half which in housing infrastructure bonds, and the other half in one-time funding that would be granted out to Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. All of these funds would be dedicated to construction and acquisition and rehabilitation of short-term housing for those who are homeless. To give you a little bit more detail of House File 3358, I have some testifiers, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We are welcoming former representative and now mayor, Kim Norton from the city of Rochester. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chair Hausman and members, friends. Good to see all of you. My name is Kim Norton, and I am the mayor of the city of Rochester. I'd like to thank Rep. Hassan for authoring this bill, House File 3358, as a way to illustrate the need for additional state resources related to emergency shelters. I'm here today on behalf of the city of Rochester and also the other 3 cities of the first class, and as you've heard from other mayors, cities across the state who have shared an interest in specific funding for capital needs related to emergency shelters. Rochester supports targeted funding for temporary homeless sheltering, warming houses, and other support, including increased mental health and chemical dependency treatment programs to reduce future growth and homelessness and to protect our residents struggling with these issues. Rochester is keenly interested in ways to support efforts related to affordable housing. As it relates to emergency shelters, a year ago when I became mayor, Rochester found itself in a situation where a clear need presented itself and concerns were raised related to people, hundreds of people experiencing homelessness who began sleeping and camping in our skyways, parking ramps, entryways, under bridges, and in other places in the cities that were not safe for them or anyone else. Therefore, the city, Olmsted County, as you heard before from Senator Commissioner Cascaden, the Chamber, and Catholic Charities and other nonprofits and groups came together to quickly assemble funds, space, and volunteers for a temporary warming shelter for this current year. I will just mention this is a winter shelter and we need it year-round. A generous gift by St. Kate's, I want to mention, of bunk beds was also shared with us and has helped create a more normal environment for our guests. As a volunteer there, I witnessed very close sleeping quarters as we have 30 bunk beds in just within a few feet of each other. And in fact, I caught my cold volunteering at the shelter where we had one individual who was quite ill and I stayed up with her all night. I also like to mention the growing number of women that we're seeing in our shelters. It's unbelievable. And the story that was told, very powerful story with such candor earlier, really demonstrates what I've witnessed. The space we have relies on volunteers to staff it each evening, along with one site coordinator. Each individual served at the warming center has a safe, warm place to sleep, for now, access to a shower, laundry facilities, healthy snacks and beverages, fellowships, and referrals for additional help and assistance. The space is located right across from the City and County Government Center downtown, and we were able to throw it together because there was a strip mall sitting there that was owned by the county. That won't stay there for long. The community was able to quickly come together and try to provide something for the immediate winter. But the community needs something more permanent and space that's more appropriate to provide services and support. I'll also mention that there's a real need for low and no barrier supportive housing for these individuals who just cannot make it in what we consider normal housing situations. They need to step up and they need support in order to do it. And I've got lots of stories that I could tell, but we don't have time to do that today. But they need and deserve stable housing. I also wanted to mention our support for other bills that you've heard related to affordable housing tax credits, which you just heard from Rep. Tabke, and the bill proposal authored by the chair for overall increase in bonding resources toward housing. Rochester City Council supports increased state funding for housing infrastructure bonds, general obligation bonds, as well as sources for public housing rehabilitation to help address the immediate and growing need for affordable housing all around. Rochester shares a desire for increased resources toward housing, including programs and funding for preservation of current housing stock, increased access to homeownership. In closing, I want to reference a letter from the League of Minnesota Cities. Housing is indeed a priority for all cities across the state, Rochester included. Rochester and cities across the state are excited to work with the committee and the legislature this year in expanding tools and resources for all of us. Cities are trying to help and do all we can with limited resources we have, but the need is great in Rochester and across the state, and we need additional resources to help bolster the efforts at the local level and aim to address the locally identified housing needs. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
And my understanding is Heather Corcoran is with you, but you have additional testimony or you're here for support?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Heather Corcoran, Legislative Policy Analyst with the City of Rochester, and I think the mayor summed it up perfectly. So,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
She was here for support in case I lost my voice.
Thank you. I think we have no questions. We'll move on to the Executive Director of the Minnesota Homeless Coalition.
Thank you.
Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm Rhonda Otteson, Executive Director of the Minnesota Coalition for the Homeless.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. The Minnesota Coalition for the Homeless is a statewide advocacy organization comprised of 100 member agencies across the state. As a coalition, we work to generate policies, community support, and local resources for housing and services to end homelessness in Minnesota. I want to start with one key message. Shelter saves lives and housing ends homelessness. That's why MCH strongly supports the $500 million bonding proposal to preserve and build quality homes that you heard about earlier this morning. We need affordable housing. On any given night, there are over 10,000 people experiencing homelessness. Currently, we only have enough housing for 31% of individuals and only 68% of families that are experiencing homelessness. We have a mismatch between the housing people need and the housing available. Furthermore, there just isn't enough housing. To address this, we need to deploy a two-pronged approach. One that preserves and builds affordable homes, and one that creates safe shelter spaces for children, families, adults, veterans, and seniors across Minnesota. For too long, we have neglected to fund our emergency shelter system at the state level. We are now at crisis levels of people experiencing homelessness with disturbing increases in the unsheltered homeless population. I want to refer to the Investing into Minnesota's Emergency Shelter handout and highlight some key statistics. Of the 87 counties in Minnesota, only 7 have enough shelter beds for individuals, and only 14 have enough shelter beds for families. So the flip side of that is that 80 counties lack enough shelter beds for individuals, and 73 counties lack enough shelter beds for families. For people on the coordinated entry waiting list, 12 months is the typical wait time to get into stable housing. Homelessness disproportionately impacts people of color and indigenous populations who are 10 times more likely to experience homelessness than white Minnesotans. 1/3 of people experiencing homelessness are employed. Unsheltered homelessness across the state increased by 62% between 2015 and 2018. Furthermore, children and youth comprise about half of those experiencing homelessness at 46%. Finally, as our general population ages, so has the population of people experiencing homelessness who are 55 and older, which grew by 25% between 2015 and 2018. Along with the $500 million bonding request, MCH has prioritized shelter as a key need to address the growing crisis of Minnesotans experiencing homelessness. A $50 million investment to expand emergency shelter beds will provide immediate and temporary housing for our most vulnerable Minnesotans. Emergency shelter beds generate a short-term solution for individuals and families sleeping outside. They are the starting point to gaining long-term stability. Emergency housing should be adequately funded so individuals and families can move to their permanent place to call home. Next, I'll refer to the unsheltered homeless handout that looks like this. Through statewide research and outreach, MCH has identified organizations that are ready to create over 1,300 new emergency shelter beds, but lack the funding to move the plans forward. These numbers do not include communities that may have longer-term plans or would move forward if financial resources became available. Currently, the state does not have a mechanism to fund capital requests for emergency shelters. The Homes for All bill and the Simpson bill both lay out options to fund shelter. At the end of the day, we need a safe way for the state to fund shelters. We are relying on leadership to help make the best decision on how and where that funding should come from. As I close, I want to reiterate just how dire the needs are. 10,000 people tonight are homeless. I want to thank leaders like April from St. Peter that you heard from earlier for sharing her testimony about the need for shelter and housing and the impact that it has had on her life, her children, and her recovery. We all need a home to thrive. The reassuring part is that we know how to solve homelessness. We need to invest in shelters and housing. We must act now to address this housing crisis. Let's go big so everyone can go home. I ask for your support on House File 3588. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative Fisher, yours is to the testifier, or do you want the...
After all the testifiers are done.
Testifier. Okay. Thank you very much. We have one additional testifier from Simpson Housing Services. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Steve Horsfield. I'm Executive Director with Simpson Housing Services. Thank you to Representative Hassan for being the chief author on our bill, and thank you to the other co-authors that are in the room here. I'll try and keep my comments brief. Simpson Housing Services is an organization in South Minneapolis. We've been operating shelter in a church basement for the last 40 years, and one of the running jokes about that facility is that if the courageous Methodist women who had decided to open the doors 40 years ago had known we would still be doing this work 40 years later, we may have been a little more intentional about space design and all that sort of thing. But we've managed to get by, and over the past few years, we've had more and more of our organization's resources and attention drawn back into this shelter world, whereas primarily we had been growing in supportive housing programs, supporting individuals and families who are formerly homeless now, about 500 households across the metro that we currently support. But about 3 years ago, we began operating what's called the Adult Shelter Connect office, which is a single point of entry for single adults seeking shelter in Hennepin County, which is a significant improvement to our system. And last winter, we found ourselves working on this matter of a very significant encampment in Franklin and Hiawatha, and Simpson was the operator of the navigation center that we set up to accommodate the needs of that primarily Native community, and we were pleased to be able to welcome inside about 174 shelter guests when we got things up and running around the end of the year, and very pleased to say that more than 100 of those folks were moved into permanent housing before we closed that thing down in early June. So it was some good opportunities for us to be able to prove our model and to prove some things out as we're moving forward into this project. What we're looking at currently and what we're asking for support specifically on in this bonding bill is a new shelter project at our church site. We now own the building. We're looking to demolish and to rebuild. We're looking to do a purpose-built shelter to fulfill the vision of maybe what our courageous Methodist leaders may have done 40 years ago, but to get to work on better solutions where we can serve folks with more dignity and have better housing placement outcomes. There was an attachment, a handout, one pager that was included with your materials for the meeting. I'll simply draw attention to a couple of facts on that sheet. One is that we're talking about a dollar-for-dollar match. So we're seeking $10 million in bonding to support this project, and we've got a $10 million private fundraising campaign that goes alongside of that ask to match this. Secondly, you'll see that in our shelter we serve more than 1,000 folks, single individuals through the course of that year. Shelter is increasingly important right now because of everything we're talking about in terms of the problems we're having with affordable housing. What it allows us to do is to target, to prioritize, and to make the best possible use and the most efficient access to the affordable and supportive housing resources that we do have available to us in our state. And in terms of infrastructure investment, this is some vital infrastructure for those who need it in terms of this emergency shelter piece, as well as all of the work around supportive housing that we've been talking about up to this point. And finally, this has been a project that we've been working on for 3 or 4 years, doing what we do as far as national best practice research, and we think we've got a model here that is one that can be replicated both in Minnesota and in other communities whereby we can move people through in a service-rich environment, reduce the overall length of homelessness, get people back into our communities where we want them to be, and do that very well. And this particular project also supports getting funding for the shelter, allows us to do 42 units of supportive housing on top of our building on the 4th and 5th floors, which is targeting exactly the niche that we've all been talking about here this morning of this less than 30% area median income, what I like to refer to as sort of this first step housing for folks who are exiting homelessness and getting back into our communities. So I thank you very much for your support for House File 3358 this morning.
Thank you very much. Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is a quick question that somebody can follow up with me afterwards. Is when I hear shelter, I do have the question: is there timeframes on it? And the reason I'm asking that is because in some situations, if you've got an upper time frame that's around 30 or 60 or 90 days, and that's hard in the legislation here or by the way it's being distributed, we run into problems because I know when you're dealing with some populations like homeless youth, et cetera, if you've got youth who are 16, 17, 18, the reality of getting them out of shelter in 30 to 60 or 90 days is pretty unrealistic. And so I'm just wondering to make sure that whatever definition is being used on shelter is it's got enough flexibility where it may have that longer time frame to be considered.
And I don't know if we have an answer now, but.
May I give a brief answer? So when we launched the Adult Shelter Connect function in Hennepin County, what we did is we set up an initial high volume shelter solution and a what we call a extended stay model. So folks coming to Simpson, for example, into the extended stay model, we do an initial engagement for 90 days that can be renewed while we're going through the process of housing placement work. So if they're actively working on a housing solution, we keep them in the system to make sure that we get them through to that solution, which on average takes 90 to 120 days.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm understanding that those kind of models would also be available for funding in this kind of situation. I just want to make sure of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no further questions. Representative Hassan renews her motion that House File 3358 be referred to the Committee on Capital Investment. All in favor say aye. 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 Those opposed say nay. That motion prevails. Thank you very much. Representative Sauke, do we have another group coming in at 9:45. Can we get yours done in a few minutes, or what are you thinking?
That's, I mean, we can take a run at it, but if there's lots of interests that want to be heard, then.
Okay. We'll move to House File 2867 because this has to go on to the Committee on Commerce, where I think some of the more technical questions will be. What is it? Oh, 2967. So, Representative Sauke moves that House File 2867 be referred to the Committee on Commerce, and there are two amendments in your packet. He is not offering the A1, but is going to offer the A2, is my understanding. A1 is not going to be moved.
Oh, you all got them? Okay, great.
Representative Sauke, the A2 amendment, would you like to move that amendment?
My fluffing around here has to do with the amendment that we intended to offer, and we'll offer it as an author's amendment. And I don't know for sure that you all have the correct one.
Well, A2?
Owen's been managing this in our.
I think it's being
We're getting
distributed.
it? Okay, thank you.
So I think we have the A2 amendment.
Thank you. This is, we've been hearing that all of these housing things are in a continuum of opportunities. And one of the things that I think we have all sort of become blind to, that is the use of mobile homes as a solution for the housing continuum that exists. And oftentimes it starts at the very beginning level of housing. And so what we've done here, and the effort here of this bill, is to allow and create the pathway for somebody to have regular mortgageable title on the mobile home and the property that it's sitting on. That did not exist in current statutes, and so we had to create this. So that's what 2967 endeavors to do, and it does it in two steps. One is to take care of the process of removing the title that is part of it being a mobile home and allowing that to become a title that then is attached to the unit and the land, which then can be mortgaged.
So the A2 is an author's amendment, so to get the bill before us in the.
Yeah, the A2, is it in?
Everybody
got the A2?
Yeah. We'll move on that. To the A2 amendment, that Representative Sauke moves the A2 amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The bill is now in the form you.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I think what I'm going to do is probably have Sean go ahead and share his information and or point of view in order to truncate those. Anybody that knows me knows that for me, if you give me space and time, I'll fill all the time and some more space. So I'm not going to talk.
And we had 2 testifiers, but my understanding is only one person is going to be
Right,
speaking.
we can
Welcome
condense
to
ourselves.
Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm Sean Allen. I'm the Executive Director of the North Country Cooperative Foundation. I'll be very brief as well. Representative Sauke did a good job of explaining why this is important. We currently help, I think, 9 cooperatives of manufactured homes in Minnesota, comprised of over 800 homeowners, to manage their cooperatives. Many of those cooperatives have empty spaces in them. They're manufactured home communities with open lots. There's about 120 of those in Minnesota. Right now, to try to move a new manufactured home into one of those communities is very difficult because the chattel loan system only allows for 5-year loans at relatively high interest rates. Our concept here is that, and I think you have this in your packets or you've been distributed this, is that with chattel loans, a payment on a $40,000 home would be $782 a month. In the same home as a mortgage loan would be $190 a month. The difference is pretty dramatic in terms of affordability. I will also mention, everybody keeps talking about 30% AMI and trying to get to that level. About 50% of the homeowners in our cooperatives are at 30% AMI or below already. What we're hoping to do is to fill up those 120 lots that are available with new homes and very affordable homes, and most of those are in rural communities, and we think this is a great opportunity. This won't actually create any type of a mortgage, but it just removes the barrier that exists, the largest barrier that exists to being able to do that.
Thank you. I see no questions. Any concluding
What I
comments?
want to do is just make one statement that hopefully focuses everybody to understand that this bill is addressing only the issue of co-ops. Mobile home parks that are functioning as owned properties, investment properties and that like, this does not speak to that circumstance. So it's slicing out a certain part of the market having to do with co-ops and creating a vehicle by which those property owners can then use theirs to get mortgage financing.
Thank you. I see no questions. So Representative Sauke renews his motion. Oh, we do, I'm sorry, we do have another testifier. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record.
Madam Chair, Mark Bruner, Manufactured Modular Home Association of Minnesota. And we have not had a chance to really look at the A2 in terms of what it does. But our association represents the builders. There are about there are 12 plants in Minnesota that build modular homes and manufactured homes. And manufactured homes are the state's largest source of non-subsidized affordable housing. There are approximately 1,000 manufactured home communities in Minnesota with 50,000 home sites. And as was mentioned, the bill intends to address the cooperatives, which account for about 500 of the 50,000 home sites. And one of the things we're concerned with is that the bill has some broader implications in terms of manufactured homes that are sited on real property. The affidavit of a fixation that the bill changes also applies to manufactured homes that are placed on real property, which is at least 80% of all the new homes sold in Minnesota. The concern we had with the bill was on page 2, lines 7 and 8, where the change is that it says in the affidavit that the homeowner is the owner of the land or the owner of the land is a member of a Minnesota nonprofit or a cooperative. The concern with that is that the affidavit of affixation is a legal instrument that's used by lenders as well as Fannie and Freddie in determining if a manufactured home mortgage that qualifies for securitization in the secondary market, meaning it's packaged with other real property mortgages, is in fact real property. And the way they determine that is by looking at that affidavit that says it is part of the real property. Our concern is that adding the or, the owner of the land, doesn't really tell someone whether it's a home, whether the homeowner owns the land underneath the home, or if it's a manufactured home on leased land, albeit in a cooperative. In 2003, and if I could, maybe ask the page to distribute something just that addresses what I'm about to mention. But in 2003, I think it was maybe in March, we were notified, as well as the industry nationally, by U.S. Bank that they were suspending all lending of manufactured homes in Minnesota, and there were a couple other states nationally because Freddie Mac had done an audit and determined that Minnesota's notice of affixation, which the bill addresses, was insufficient in meeting the requirements they needed to ensure that the home was in fact without a title and the proper documentation had been met. So we were able to, in 2003, with the help of then Representative Pugh, as chair of the Commerce Committee, and Senator Metzen, to move a bill through that essentially is what we have today as the notice of affixation for a manufactured home. And that notice in current statute was developed with the assistance of legal counsel at Freddie Mac, the Minnesota bankers, and a number of others. So our concern is that making this change will affect what's been done previously. And actually, our suggestion is that maybe this could just be put as a separate section that would address the co-ops, rather than trying to conflate it with what we need to, continue with the, traditional financing for homes that go on real property. And we applaud your effort to expand real property financing for homes in communities at the national level. We're currently working with Fannie and Freddie. They're about ready to launch pilot programs that would extend real property financing to homes on leased land in communities.
We have, unfortunately, another committee coming in here in 5 minutes. Would you feel comfortable this goes now to the Commerce Committee?
Sure.
Where it probably has a more detailed conversation, and perhaps you and the author could have some more conversation after.
Madam Chair, I'd be glad to.
Okay,
Thanks.
that would be, because that is where it's going now. So because we have another committee here, I think we'd like to just move it out just so that you are able to hear it in the next committee. So Representative Sauke renews his motion that House File 2967 be, as amended, be referred to the Committee on Commerce. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. That you're on to your next committee, and then that conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Meeting is, members, by the way, we lose another committee hearing next week because the speaker has said we're breaking for caucuses, and so we unfortunately have lost our committee time next week too, so we're starting to feel the pressure of this.
As you said.
Meeting is adjourned.